you. So I've been building AI apps probably for about 2 years, officially since February. But my whole reason for doing it wasn't out of laziness and partially laziness, but it was more about productivity. When I was particularly in enablement, I'm seeing all these new hires coming in and they're getting lost, they're getting drowned in data that, we're forcing them to go through. They've got this 30, 60, 90-day plan that they have to go through. And chances are they already know the 60 days of it, but we're making them go through these phases anyway. And I'm trying to figure out, how do we get these people to a point that we already know what they know, within a couple of days, and then they can just test out of it. So I started working on that, and that was kind of the first one I built. And we realized that we could shorten the ramp for about 70% of our new hires from 90 days to about 30. And still have them be as successful. So I knew I was onto a good thing then, so I started asking around, and people were a little bit shy. So I said, okay, I'll go back to my own selling days. What did I hate doing most? And it wasn't traveling, I used to love that. But it was the tedious stuff like account planning that you'd have to do at the start of every fiscal year. You'd have to build out an account plan for every single one of your accounts, and if you were me, you could have 200 accounts within the M5 or the M5, whatever circle in London, and that was painful. And then every quarter, you'd have to do it again. You'd get your team together and say, okay, well, let's look at the top ones here, and what do you know, and has anybody been into the office there? So I knew that was taking me probably a year, probably 4 or 5 weeks just in planning. And then the other side of it was outreach, crafting all the emails, making the calls, doing my LinkedIn connection requests. Then it was creating PowerPoint decks, and it was, everything that wasn't selling. And that was the thing that I loved most about sales, was getting in front of people. I love talking to people, if you can't tell. And that's what I was good at. I was good at closing deals. I was good at building relationships. What I didn't know at the time was I was severely ADHD. So that's why I hated doing this boring, repetitive work that I had no interest in. And it was getting me in trouble for not doing it, but then I'd close the deal because I was in front of a person and all to be forgiven until the next quarter. So I look back at that and I said, okay, well, I'm going to try and get rid of some of that painful stuff for me and see if I can make a way to have AI, instead of being the thing that took our jobs, to be the one that will make us better at our jobs. And so that's, a few months ago I came up with a kind of a framework to kind of apply it, basically. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So building better human connections by actually taking AI on board. So it's kind of the antithesis of what everybody else has been saying. If you're in any kind of knowledge-based, you're going to be AI'd out of a job. Well, you are if you don't actually adopt it, in my opinion. If you get in now, and fortunately, everybody here in this room must have some general interest in AI, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. It's not for the chocolate, it could be for the chocolate. That's why I'm here. So yeah. So I'll stand back so I can actually look at my own slides. We spend a fortune every single day. I say we, the powers that be, spend fortunes on new tools. I was just talking to Mihal about it there, Zendesk. The cost of it is ridiculous. Not saying that it's not a great tool, if there's anybody from Zendesk here. It's a great tool. But it's expensive. Salesforce is expensive. ZoomInfo, Sales Navigator, they cost an absolute fortune. And, they're supposed to be this magic silver bullet. This will get you more leads. This will create more opportunities for you. This will get you in the door faster. This will help you build your account plan. And okay, great, it'll help me build it. Okay, great. And then you realize that all of those tools are actually taking away from the time that you want, which is spending the time in the field, shaking hands with people and closing deals. So these are actually from CSO. So we're spending 60% of AEs and customer success and professional services and SEs on administrative tasks, not on customers. So again, the analogy, it's like owning a performance car and only using it to deliver mail, right? So like we have all of these tools, whereas if we had 4 times as much time, yeah, great, they'd be fantastic, but we don't. We're humans, we work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But a third or less of your time is spent actually selling. Now that could be on the phone, which is fine, or email, which again is fine. But studies show like the more time you actually spend building relationships, the better and bigger and more deals that you get. It's not just you get one, you land and you expand because you have a relationship. This is insane. Coming from an ex-SDR, 44% of leads are abandoned after one touch. Yeah, I got the MQL. Yeah, I reached out to it, and just so it wasn't an MQL anymore, and Chelsea wasn't on our backs, right? So yeah, it's an SAL. I'll be working it. Yeah, sure. But like half of all leads, and if somebody in marketing actually heard that, they would absolutely they'd flip. I know our CMO would, and it's time. It's the only reason why we don't. Pursue these leads is because I'd love to do these leads, but at the same time, I also have to do this other task, and I have to do this other task. Actually, I wanted to say one thing. The words that you chose when you were talking about vector databases, there were, your king minus man plus woman. I was sure that you were going to have a third one there that was going to have a reference to music, right? Because we had Queen and we had Prince. Right, so I was like, he's going to get to music eventually, and that's going to be the right answer, But that's my LLM brain, right? I'm looking for that. Yeah. So look, this is 100%. Like I truly believe this, right? If you are willing to put a little bit of time into learning how to actually use large language models, whether it's ChatGPT or whether it's Claude or Mistral or whatever engine you want to put in your car, it doesn't really matter. If you can learn how to use it for your own benefit, it will be a massive time saving to you. It'll make you seem smarter, but it will make you more efficient. And yeah, I truly believe that. This being an AI session and I build AI agents, I thought, well, I have to come up with something that's agentic, right? So Bond, right? James Bond. B, have bold outreach. Automate the prep work so your team can focus on crafting strategic, high-impact messages. Okay, so that's one part of it. Eventually, you can get one step further where you write the right prompt and you give it the right data. AI can also create these hyper-personalized, high-impact messages. Instead of sending 500 messages a day, you can send 4 and have the same impact because it's personalized and you've done your research and it's up to date. It's not hi, curly braces, placeholder name, curly braces. I see you work at curly braces, company name. Keep an open dialogue. So you need to use AI to give you the real-time insights. So this is the time that you would spend looking at annual reports, trawling through the annual reports, pressing Command F or Control F and looking for digital transformation. And maybe finding one and hoping that you could talk about that particular topic. But instead you can just say, find me digital transformy things in this that could relate to Cloudera or to Nginx or to F5. And it'll spit back a third of it, and then you say, refine it. Now, who cares about that? And why do they care about it? Craft me a message about that. What happens if they don't solve that problem? Push a little bit on that. Don't mention Cloudera, make it value messaging. It's all for them. It's all for me. So you get your real-time insights and talking points, and it's not robotic. Again, the annual report is one source. LinkedIn's another great source. Twitter's another great source. Don't use Facebook. That's creepy. Hey, I see you're into digital transformation and your kids love swimming. So don't do that. But do keep an open dialogue. This is crucial. So I mentioned it earlier, value messaging. Value messaging is all about their needs first. And if you don't know what they need, you're never going to be able to excel in that account, because what you're doing is you're pushing for what you need, which is to hit your number. But you're never going to do it if that's your main prerogative, right? So you need to have a needs-first understanding. And it's impossible to do with 200 odd accounts or even 5 strategic accounts. So like if you've got US Bank or if you've got Barclays and there's millions of employees, but there's really only say 10 departments. You might only have one of them and it could be your biggest client, but there's still 9 other departments there. You might have 5 accounts, but you could have twice as many leads. So you let AI analyze the conversations to flag the unstated needs your customers have. So what are they not saying and what are they saying? So that's a nearly impossible task for us to realize what they're not saying, but AI can understand that. And finally, building dedicated relationships. So you're freeing up your team away from the CRM, away from the Altifys and the Revigy account planning tools to doing your relationship mapping and your whatever. So you can actually go out and build trust and drive real value. I'll talk a little bit now before I go on to the next slide. One of the, I suppose, main reasons that I really started believing in this, well, one, I read that Databricks was doing something similar, so I was like, they can't do it, I have to do it. They're only a startup, even though they've got 10 times as much money as us. The ability to have a single LLM do all of that, right? Just different prompts. It blew me away. And then I started looking at agentic AI, and I was like, okay, well, if they can all do it concurrently, I'm getting it done even faster. And well, if maybe one of them could do 3 or 4 jobs, those 5 agents I now have are doing 25 jobs for me, and pretty soon I've got a team, and I go, God, I can't manage all of these. What am I going to do? I know, I'll build a manager agent. This is great. And you do, and it works. It works. You've got one manager agent who manages your agents, and you only talk to your manager agent. And you just get a little report off them. You say, hey, can I get a complete analysis of this account from top to bottom, and I want the outbound messaging, and I need a first POV deck, and I need, I need to present this to my boss as well, so I need an internal POV deck, and I need a customer POV deck. You realize in about 7 minutes it's done. And that's insane. And it's done on your templated PowerPoint deck, right? With your branded colors and the plus Jakarta Sans font that your marketing team says that you have to use. That's plus Jakarta Sans, by the way. And I brought it to, we had a new TVP, a new head of EMEA in sales, and he was brand new. And he said, so you're in enablement, what do you do? And I said, I build AI apps. And he said, okay, what? Do we not have somebody to do that? I think, well, no, we don't. I do also do enablement, but I do also do this. And I showed him, and he was like, so I've got my first conversation with the field tomorrow. You're going to introduce me. And you're going to take 20 minutes and I'm going to take 10 minutes, and you need to show the entire field this. Does everybody know about this? No, they don't. Well, they're going to know tomorrow. And so I showed, and genuinely, and it was in the Cork office just over here, which I can't remember the name of, but right over there, the big tall buildings next to the dean. And there was genuinely a standing ovation and a screaming round of applause when I showed them, especially one piece, that with the click of a button, you can have 70% of your account plan done in about 30 seconds. It was I clicked a button, a file went into Salesforce, and my entire account plan was populated, some of it sparsely, but it monitors. It was like 10, 20, 40, 60, 70%. And they were like, oh my God. And like, it was genuine. And so I was like, all right, this is it for me. I'm stuck. We're going to do this forever. Love this feeling, got to chase that high. So that's why, I knew at that point that I was making a huge impact. And I knew really it wasn't me who was making the impact. I was, following Databricks, even though I never told anybody that until now. But this is just one single application. Right? It's just one. There are other, let's say you're a new hire and you started work here, and somebody's going through all of these acronyms, OWASP, WAF, and I'm definitely going to know what that is. And you can't ask anybody because you've now been here 3 months and you really should know, and it's kind of awkward. So the current app that I'm working on is just a Slack app that connects to a RAG database, which is a vector database. And essentially, you put in any documentation you want in there, and it will answer your questions on it. So I tried with all of our deal desk and global order management and field operations and field enablement, every document that I could find. And I knew it was safe because it's our own RAG studio. Cloudera builds these. I'm not on a retainer or anything, but it's really good. You should buy it. And I just started asking around. I was thinking, okay, well, I'm not an AE here, but if I was an AE, and I might want to know, how do I turn this 1-year deal into a 3-year deal with 3-year terms but 1-year payments, while also co-terming this renewal and bringing it in early? What is the policy and what is the process? And within about 5 seconds, it brought me back cited and sourced documents with the right answer, and then gave me a link to the team in our intranet and said, if you've got any further questions, reach out to Conor Deneen, who was the local head of, because it knew my location. So I was like, okay, well, this is phenomenal. Okay, I've got to do something with this. So I built a Slack app, and so now that Slack app is connected. And if it doesn't have the answer, it gives you a Jira ticket. It says, okay, well, obviously that was for global order management, and we didn't have the answer, so go ask them. And I thought, well, they're going to hate me if I do that, because they're going to have more Jira tickets. So I went to all of them first, and I said, hey, what are the top 25 most frequently asked questions that you get in Jira? What would you like if I could take all of those away? Like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. So they all gave me their top 25 FAQs. I just threw them into the RAG database. And I was like, and Jira tickets just dropped overnight. And so they went from, thousands down to, the tens, and just a few new ones. And the new ones were ones that they actually wanted to answer. And they're like, oh God, that's a great question. Instead of, oh, that's that same question again this hour. And so that was a very easy application to build. Simple connection from Slack to the database, just an API. And I had a list of the Jira links for each of the teams. And it just associates the question. Well, that was a global order management question that came from that file, or from that vector, and associated that with the team. And, I had it built in a couple of days. And so these are the kind of productivity gains you can get just by thinking, like, what do I hate doing about my job? And if I could get an intern that I didn't like, what jobs would I give them to do? And so that's your AI agent, right? They're the intern that you love to hate and hate to love. So I spoke a little bit about the kind of big application. This is the one that Paco wanted me to show. So it started with just account research, right? So for me, that was the biggest pain. How do I learn everything about these accounts? And I realized that was actually very easy to do once I kind of gave it a template and a guide, right? I need this, I need the operational information, I need who are their competitors, what's the MEDPIC framework, all of that. And then I thought, well, what else can I, well, who'd be the top personas to reach out to? So I included that. Oh, give me an elevator pitch for each of those particular people. So I got that as well. And then I started looking at the Altify, which is our account planning software. And I said, well, what are all the fields that they use? So I rang them in Altify and I said, hey, if I can get you a JSON file that has all of these things with all of the information that's in there, like, could you, if I put that as a file in Salesforce, could you do something with it? They were like, well, if you can do that, like, we can just change the UI, like, we'll call it the Cloudera AI button. So, okay. And within a couple of days, they had that done. And I said, do you want to test it? I said, yeah, I want to test it. And then about 2 days later, they came back and they said, can we buy it? Can we buy that off you? And I was like, no. And then my boss was like, Colm. I was like, no, you can't buy it. I'm not finished with it. So that's ongoing. And that was just, again, it was just a small idea, but that was the one that got the big round of applause, that, the 70%. So yeah, it goes through, does all the research, identifies that company's top 3 business use cases based on our top use cases for each of those industries. There's 10 industries that it maps to at the moment. It aligns each of those use cases to our solutions, finds the people that cares about it, tells us why they care about it, tells us what happens if they don't resolve the problem. And then after all of that research, then it generated this presentation, which you can't really see, which is good because it's confidential. But all of that research, the account planning, I forgot to mention, it also builds a 14-step 31-day cadence, including LinkedIn outreach messages, emails with the curly braces, voicemail scripts, each one hyper-personalized to the exact persona. So it does all of that, it takes 7 minutes. So I went from taking a team of people, a half day, a team of people, to get one account done, to being able to get all accounts done in EMEA in about a day, which normally would have been, a month's work combined, if not more. So the entire client-facing slides with company analysis, key challenges, tailored solutions generated by an AI agent in under 5 minutes. I am a nerd. I know that. Sorry. Go nerds! And I learned recently enough, how to script in Python and JavaScript. So I'm by no means an expert at all. I understand what a function is, and in JavaScript, what a class is. But ask me to write one on paper, impossible. So I love vibe coding. This is my new jam. Cursor for the win. I love it. Better than windsurf. So I vibe coded all of this. But if I didn't know how to use Python, I still could vibe code it because it doesn't work. And then you say, why didn't it work? And it says, oh yeah, you're right, it didn't work. Great job. Hey, you're really good at this. I'll fix it for you. And it goes and fixes it for you. Does it work now? Yeah, it works. Say, yes. And then you show everybody, hey, look what I wrote in Python. And you didn't write any of it. Create slides like this, right? Pretty and accurate and really easy. But my point here about being a nerd is every single person here, if you're not into coding, if you can speak English at a reasonable level, and if you're in any way convincing and can tell a story, you can build AI apps. Because 90% of it right now is prompt engineering. Right? We all heard about, I'm a prompt engineer, which is a dying job, because now everybody can be a prompt engineer. And in fact, all of the large language model providers like OpenAI and Anthropic, they release guides on how to prompt. So if you're smart, you'll take those guides and you'll give them to your AI agent and you'll say, hey, I wrote all these prompts, will you fix them? And it does. And then your apps are just way better and faster and can do more things. So I use AI to build AI to build AI. This is another cool one. It chooses your top ideal persona from that 60-page dossier of analysis, and it sends it here, and you can choose your voice. It gives you a list of 9 voices. And you can just have a conversation with Sarah Chen, who's the VP of Marketing at AT&T. She wants to talk about AI for predictive maintenance because she's having this challenge. And it takes all of that information from the previous report and just sends it to it, and you press start, and she's like, hey, how's it going? And if you start going off topic, she gets annoyed, or he gets annoyed, but she, because it's Sarah. Well, it doesn't have to be. Be very careful, Colm. But what's great is it also maps to objections and challenges that they're facing. And it also tracks how much time you've been speaking and how much time they've been speaking and how many ums you said. And so at the end of the call, it takes that full transcript, which right now is only 4 sentences, but normally it could be 20 minutes. It takes that full transcript and runs it through my previous sales enablement grading rubric for testing new hires on their discovery skills, and it grades them. And then it takes the call metrics and says, you did really well, but you spoke 85% of the time. Maybe you should have a 2-way conversation with this customer. This is a discovery call. They learned more about you than you did about them. So it gives you actionable feedback as well. So that's pretty cool. Nearly done. So I've spoken about this a fair bit. I love this, the corniest line I've got in here. The true ROI is the relationship. It's the friends we made along the way. So imagine a world. So that's how I love to start my elevator pitches, by the way, right? Imagine, right? Put yourself in the shoes of someone who, right? Don't talk about yourself. Give them the dream. So imagine a world where your team are viewed by your customers not as vendors, but as trusted advisors. And I know we've all heard that a million times, but but we could never achieve it because, work and stuff. It was easier back in the day when there was no computers, boss, and you used your Rolodex and you went, I think I'll go visit Jimmy today, and you go and you spend 5 hours with him. That's how you become a trusted advisor, is because you can build a relationship with the person. Imagine a world where your team spends 80% of their time in actual high-value client-facing conversations. So if somebody had told me 10 years ago that for the next 10 years you'll just spend your time just chatting to people and convincing them that they need, or you've got a problem, or they've got a problem that you can solve, I would have been like all over it. Instead, that didn't happen. So I moved away from it. But 25 years down the drain, no big deal. I'm not bitter. But also imagine where your deals close 23% faster because your reps are able to anticipate the needs before they're even stated. So that's the reading between the lines. That's what AI is fantastic at. What am I not seeing? Right? So AI is not a replacement for human connection. It's the catalyst for it. Thank you.